What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we diving into some Jeskai Tokens, a deck that I kind of put together around some cards that came from Brothers War, as well as some other sets across Standard currently in Arena. This is definitely an interesting deck overall. You know, what we're trying to do is have multiple ways of producing a bunch of tokens and kind of overwhelm our opponent that way. One of the cards starting us off in the early game with creating tokens is going to be the Third Path Ironclast. Whenever we cast a non-creature spell, we go to create a 1/1 soldier artifact creature token, which is definitely a good card to get out early. And as we play the rest of our deck, for the most part, outside of the Platoon Dispenser, most of the cards we do play in this deck will produce a token from it, as well as we play things like Wedded Announcement 4 of, as this is kind of like a way to generate tokens as well. Once it gets that third trigger, it will then give all our creatures +1/+1. Another card that actually produces tokens that I feel like doesn't see as much play just because Wedded Announcement is that much better is actually still as Stesnia Uprising, another 4-mana enchantment that's been of our end step. We create a 1/1 red human creature token, and if we control 13 permanents exactly, including lands, we can sacrifice it and deal 7 damage to any target. So depending on what the state of the game is, we could direct it towards a creature, we could direct it towards our opponent's life total, or we just decline it completely and just keep on generating tokens. And another card that we have here in the deck is going to be Saheeli Filigree Master, a 4-mana planeswalker that we can tap +1, we can scry 1, and then tap an untap artifact we control, and then draw the card that we possibly either scried and kept on top, or put on the bottom and look for a possible answer, maybe depending on what the situation is. We can -2, we create 2 Thopter tokens that have haste and flying, until end of turn, or you can -4 if we get to that point and we get an emblem with artifact creatures we control get +1/+1, and artifact spells we cast cost 1 less to cast. So overall, pretty decent planeswalker. Definitely, you know, very plausible to even get the emblem pretty quickly just because she comes into play with 3 loyalty and with 1/+1 if we can get to the next turn. And if we want to, you know, -4, we could then go ahead and do so. And then the last big card in the deck is going to be the Platoon Dispenser, another great card for a tokens deck. One, it's a 5-mana 4/6, which is definitely pretty hard to deal with outside of maybe possibly a Braden or having some sort of direct removal spell. But this card's pretty good in the sense that at the beginning of our end step, we control 2 or more other creatures, we get to draw a card. And we have a lot of ways of producing creatures, so this hopefully will draw us a bunch of cards. We can also sink mana into it for 4 mana. We create a 1/1 colorless soldier artifact creature token, and we can earth it in case we really just want to push damage if we have one in the graveyard at some point. But overall, the deck is pretty straightforward. What we're trying to do here, just trying to set ourselves up just to generate a bunch of tokens, and let's just dive into some games and kind of see how we do with the deck. First up, I mean, our hand's okay. We're on the play, which I think is okay. We have removal, so I do think this is a keep, and we'll just get one of our tap lands out of the way early. And I do think the red-white one is the one to do, just because most of our hand is red and white. We don't really need the blue, though this blue is actually pretty good, and we'll see if our opponent has an answer, and we'll autopay. If they want to remove it, they remove it. That gets rid of a removal spell that, you know, could be beneficial to them. So they do play the cut down, which is probably expected of mono black, and our opponent doesn't do anything on turn 2, and we're just going to go ahead and fatal Wedded Announcement and just start creating a board presence. So if they want to start removing things on the battlefields, they can go ahead and do so. They can cut down our 1/1, or they can leave it. But they'll disfigure, so it looks like a mono black full of removal kind of deck, because we have disfigure, we have cut down. Maybe it's a mono black control deck. I'm not really sure, but we'll pass. Don't really have a play here. Create another creature. Maybe they're going to do something about it. Another disfigure. Perfectly fine. I mean, it's just a matter of what they got going on here. I mean, they haven't really played much, and they're not really playing into anything. And us drawing a lot of lands is not great, especially in a point where they have, you know, a handful of removal, but just no answers. Sure. They still cut down. I mean, we're getting rid of the removal, so once we kind of draw maybe another way to produce tokens, it's going to be beneficial to us. Sure. We'll get dealt 6. Or 4, I should say, because we already had an enchantment out. Mishra's Research Desk is cool here, because this can help us dig a little bit into our deck and possibly find an answer. I mean, if they're just like, I'm whatchamacallit here, I'm a deck that just plays Invoke Despair, and that's about it. If we get a presence on the battlefield, it will make it a little bit harder for them to do anything with. So they're going to Cruelty here. And I'm not sure what they're going to do here. I mean, I have removal, so if they want to, they can look at my removal. And we'll activate. And I think I'm going to get rid of their cruelty just because I don't want them to look for another invoke. And we'll get the Mirror Breaker. And we'll destroy the enchantment because we have other removal spells. So they only get to look at our hand, but they don't get to do anything about it. So we'll play a third pass. We'll play Fable. And now we're kind of, you know, our deck's kind of going along here, even though we were kind of behind before we have a board presence. And now an Evoke Despair is not really good as much because we have creatures on the battlefields. Sure, that's perfectly fine. Now the real question is, do we want to do anything about the fact that... Alright. Do anything about the fact that they're just a deck full of removal. It's kind of weird, right? Like, what is like your big spell here for our opponent? We'll get rid of the land because we're kind of good on lands, and I think we'll get rid of the Voltage Surge just because they haven't shown us anything that is really that good. We'll attack in for 1, see what happens. There is stick, so they do have something. My assumption is maybe like a March. I guess they're unsure if they want to take 1 point of damage. I mean, I think we've seen like 6 removal spells. 2, we have a Go for the Throat, Infernal Grasp. We have 2 Disfigures, 2 Cutdowns. So, I mean, their opponent is literally mono black. Let me just play removal and then just try to resolve stuff is really what we got going on here. So yeah, they're still stick, so they have some sort of interaction here that they can do. I'll take the Uprising. Uprising's good. And then we'll end turn. See what they do here. And the great part about Uprising being off to the side is they can't target it, so... Definitely not bad. I mean... Our opponent could remove our creature, or they're probably saving it. Sure. Alright. Now, this is where I probably think they do something to deal with the Saga from turning on. And the fact that we drew a Bank Buster is also pretty good here, because it is one of those things that will help us dig a little bit deeper, and that's going to be really good against our opponent that plays just removal city. I think the problem is playing with a bunch of removal is the fact that it's not going to help. Unless they have some sort of big spell. And it looks like they have another removal spell. So after all that, they have removal. So definitely interesting, I would say. And we'll just play this. And we'll just say go and start creating a presence of creatures. So now we have 2 1/1s, which is definitely not bad. They know about the Fateful Absence, so it's not like they can do a ton. Sure. Can't block. Pass to attackers. What's its ability? Return it. Sure. I could play the Platoon Dispenser, but I have this weird feeling that they have removal for it. We'll swing in for 2, because we'll just get another creature anyway. They can't block it. We'll get a creature to block it. So as of right now, they don't have much going on here. And I think we play the Bank Buster. And then we kind of just, like, say go. Our opponent's on one card, so it's not like they have a lot going on here. If anything, our opponent's done more damage to themselves than we have done to them. Alright. Arena is being a little weird, but we'll play our Bank Buster. And we'll end turn. And we'll just keep on getting tokens. I think our opponent's now piecing together what our deck is doing. If they remove the token, we have a Voltage Surge, and they're just going to scoop, I guess. Just going to scoop. Hey, if you're liking the deck, I have it linked down in the description below if you want to check it out. And if you're also liking the video, remember to hit that like button. Definitely helps out the channel. With that being said, let's get back into the next game. All right, opponent goes first. Hand is a bit slow, but we have a Destroy Evil, which I don't know if helps us immediately, but it could help us in the later game, so I do think we keep. Looks like our opponent's on Soldiers, which could be bad, but we'll kind of wait this one out. Valiant Veteran, they're already swinging in for 3. Arena froze there for a second. We'll say go. Possibly play removal here if need be. It's one of the downsides of being on the play against like a more of aggressive deck than we were. They're gonna draw here possibly and maybe play another creature. And us playing Wet Announcement is actually not bad because then it creates additional threats on the battlefield. Could also go ahead and play something like a Fable and put a bigger presence, but I do think getting the Wet Announcement out and just having the additional triggers of creatures on the battlefield are definitely very good. So if they play like a big creature here, like Marvel or whatever it is, we could just Destroy Evil it, which is a possibility just as being that card. And they're going to pay 2. We'll block because we'll get another creature. It's toughness 4 or greater. None of their creatures have high toughness. They're all just big creatures. So we'll play a Battlefield Forge. We'll play another. And then we'll get 2 creatures. Which, you know, just delays. I mean, drawing another Wet Announcement's not too bad. Our opponent looks maybe they're going to pump the team, if that's what they think. Alright, Siege Veteran. Not bad. Sure. They attack him with just the 4/2. We'll just chump block with 1. It doesn't pump the team anymore. And they're unsure of where they want to go with this counter, so... I mean, we'll double block and get rid of their only card that is going to not make them a soldier. And you know what? We'll Wet Announcement again. Yes, I drew 3 of them. And now we have 2 2s on the battlefield. Sure. We'll see what they want to do here, where they want to put tokens. Brutal Cathar's fine. We'll submit 0 and just do 2. And it looks like they are going to try to go wide on us, which is, you know, going to be a challenge. Don't really have good attacks if they want to go all in. Can't really play that, so I think we'll Fable, and then we'll just say go. And then we have 3 3s and a 4/4. We'll just destroy target creature with power 4 or greater. So then they just have their little team of 3 3s. Probably could have waited to the trigger resolve, to be quite honest. I just gave them like a free card. It's nighttime. We'll discard this. That's not really a great card, but we'll just play another creature that continues to make a team for us. And we'll just say go again. And then we have a bigger board. Sure. Surprised they didn't put it on Thalia of all cards here. Just because the Thalia would probably be the better of all of them to do something with. I guess we'll grab that. And then we'll do this. Put pressure on their life total. If they want to chump out, we'll get a bunch of creatures. They don't actually have... They have a lot fewer creatures than we do. So... And they only have, you know, 2 real creatures. So that's also beneficial to us, and we're just going to get another creature. And I think they realize what's going to happen here. I like that, but I kind of, you know, want to look at the battlefield real quick, right? Like they're going into double block here, still have a 5/5. They have 2 3/3s, 2 2/2s. They could throw 2 2/2s in front of a 4/4. They got 3 3s. And they're still going to take like 16 points of damage. We're going to then follow up with playing Platoon Dispenser, which we have the treasure for. And then we're going to also then get another creature, which replaces one of our creatures that died. And then it comes on the battlefield and it's, you know, it's a 4/4 again. And then we have 2 blockers to whatever they keep back. So all in all, they literally would lose their whole battlefields in the process of trying to prevent them from dying. Because if they don't block, we have 5, which is 20 and 24 right there. So they have to pretty much commit a bunch of blockers or spread all their creatures out across all the creatures we're attacking with and not really actually lose more battlefield. So there's not really a good win-win for them to come out of this on top. If you're liking the content on the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It definitely helps out a lot. Also, if you want to go the extra mile, you can simply click the join button. You can join the channel and become a member for as little as $1. That will also help support the channel. Now back to the next game. Opponent goes first. Hand is okay. Can research desk, have a destroy evil. So I think we're in an okay position to possibly have answers. We have a research desk to dig a little bit deeper in case we need to. We drew a red mana source. I mean, unfortunate part is both our other color sources right now are the legendary lands, so we don't get any benefit out of them. Something is it looks like. The real question is, do I dig and just kind of look for a land? I think I do that because I feel like in a weird way, it'd be playing almost into like a, you know, a counter spell of some sort. I guess we'll hold on to the Bankbuster, and I'll play the Aganjo and see what our opponent does. They don't do anything. So yet again, very strange from our opponent. Yet again, it looks like we're going to walk into a make disappear, but we have to play the Bankbuster or we lose it. Our opponent can go ahead and now counter it if they want to. I would assume they counter it because that's card advantage right there. So, looks like, is it control? Maybe? Or just, is it that hasn't drawn much? Still nothing. We'll play Mountain. And I think we say go. We can then follow up with like a Sokuzan at the end of their turn, get some creatures on the battlefields. Sure. We'll Sokuzan. We'll zap that. I think that's the better play. And we'll destroy evil this if they want to counter it. We'll get all those out of the way. And it doesn't seem like they have a counter spell, which is good. And I think we start out with the wedding announcement. And we say go. And then we have possible counter magic open in case they want to do something with that. Sure. We'll take 6. No blocks. We'll play a Platoon Dispenser. No attacks. And because the triggers, I think, stack differently, it doesn't work the way we wanted it to there. And now they're looking at our Platoon Dispenser being like, holy moly, there's a giant Platoon Dispenser on our side of the battlefield. Now we can double block. We could put the 4/6 in front of something. So we do have some good plays here. All right, they're gonna play another one. Well, I guess if I can block. And we'll take 8, I guess. So we have to get creatures fast, which is not great. This will help.
Test your metal against my
No attacks. And then we'll get even more creatures. We'll draw a card. So now we have enough blockers to block what they got. I mean, it's possible that they have just another one. So definitely not a position we want to be against because we're not super aggressive. So because the other creatures are artifacts, we'll block here. We're down to 2. If they have a burn spell, like a Play with Fire or Lightning Strike, we're dead. Nothing. So either they're slow rolling the fact that they have a burn spell, or play Bankbuster. And I think we scry just to kind of see. I don't want that.
I know exactly
We'll
what
tap
the
this,
metal
we'll draw.
wants to be.
Not what I was looking for. And I guess we create another creature and then hope for the best. That they don't have a way to remove things on the battlefield. Or it's possible they just have another one. If they have any sort of way to remove anything on the battlefield, I mean, it's not... I'm at 2. They just got to remove 1 blocker and they can get in. So, still not in a good spot. I mean, I do have 1 open mana, so there's that. And I guess they're wondering if they should keep Saheeli around, because Saheeli will actually... No. Interesting. That's actually not bad. Shivian Reef isn't great, so we'll make sure to tap that here. And I think we'll play this again. We could go all out. I think we'll just make creatures.
Must accept defeat. Now.
And...
Look how my art hums with life.
Is that... And I think we pass. Just because I want to keep mana open in case we need a spot removal spell in, like, kind of like a clutch situation. Like, I would have tapped down because I would have had to commit double. Sure, they're going to draw 2, it looks like, because -5/-5 doesn't do anything in this position. That's fine. So they have a ton of mana. They're probably looking for, like, I don't know, the Phyrexian portal thing that will make me sacrifice 3 creatures, possibly. So I got to put pressure on their life points. Maybe they're looking for a burn spell, if they play burn spells. Still nothing from our opponent, though, on their side of the battlefield. Definitely, I guess, sizing up our battlefields. We'll draw. And just make sure it keeps right open in case something happens. We'll draw again. Alright, that's fine. Fateful Absence is pretty good. Does it deal with the battlefield is the question. Now let's see if they want to counter it. I mean, I do have the mana open. They have a lot of mana, though. So, I mean, it's possible they have a bunch of stuff. And we'll attack him for 4 in the air. I'll start putting pressure on their life total up the skies. Yeah, I would only have 1 mana open there. We're going to draw a card. Let's draw 2 cards, then discard a card, create tap power stone token. So they're looking for an answer for our battlefields. Because our battlefield's about to get strong or bigger. And we'll say go. They have a Field of Ruin, which could be good or bad for us. Brotherhood's End does 3 damage to each creature and each planeswalker. Okay. They have a ton of mana open. Leveler. Sure. I mean, do they want to play Leveler? Maybe? I don't know. We'll activate and create a token. My turn. We'll play an Ironclast. We'll play a wedding announcement. We'll play... Don't want to play that, actually. And I'm actually going to wait here. Just because I want them to go to attack step, and then I'll remove it. Because it doesn't do anything. Right now. Because they can bring it back, but they can unearth it in their second main phase. Sure. They're going to Sokuzan. Alright, we'll get rid of their 8/8, so they can't attack him with that. They can draw a card. Sure. What else you got? I mean, if they swing in too aggressively, they're dead on the swing back. I could just take 3 blockers and commit them to... They're going to get rid of one of those. Sure. So everything's a little bit smaller. All right. What else you got for me? Nothing. We'll draw. Sure. We'll surge. We'll spend 0. Create a token. We'll say go. Yeah, because I don't have any other mana. That's actually really good. We'll play another Saheeli. We'll get a token. We'll create more tokens.
The last thing you'll see is the sun glittering off my machines. Aerial combat.
And we'll
is
swing
simply
in
elegant.
the air. And we'll swing it on the ground. I think we're in an okay spot here. They chump. Which is fine. I guess we will tap specifically, and we'll play a Fable and get more stuff. And we'll say go. And we'll get a bunch of stuff. We'll kind of refill our board back up. And we have a lot of blockers yet again. Yeah, I mean, there's too much board presence, and they already played one Brothers War that I don't think they could come back from this. I mean, if they had a Brothers War, I think that's their only play, but I mean, they scooped, so that means they probably didn't top deck it, and that's 1, 2 in the deck, so I don't know if they play more than 2. Doesn't seem like it's a card that you want to play multiple copies of. Leveler, as much as it's good in this position, doesn't do much for them, as it only destroys one thing, and there's just so much board. Plus, we already have a Destroy Evil, so there's that. And on top of that, even unearthing it, I can still target it with a Destroy Evil because it's until it attacks that it doesn't get to do its ability when you unearth it. It's only when it comes into the battlefield from your hand when you cast it, and then on top of that, only when it attacks. So overall, I think that went pretty well. Got a little close there on life total, but still a pretty good match. And we are back. So I mean, overall, the games went pretty well. This deck felt pretty good, and it does create tons of problems for a lot of decks in the meta, as if we can get our engines online to create our bunch of tokens, if we can like turn 2 third path Ironclast into a turn 3 Wet Announcement, possibly even turn 4 Sesnia Uprising, that's all hypothetical, you know, that's kind of like our nut draw for the deck. It definitely is a deck that works very well. It can dig a lot of cards out of your deck, as Platoon Dispenser seems like a good top end card, as once the board starts filling up all these smaller creatures, and as Wet Announcement then triggers to its third trigger, you know, all these creatures become bigger and bigger and become bigger problems that your opponent has to find ways to deal with. And even in situations where your opponent may have a lot of early game spot removal, I do think if we can just land a couple Wet Announcements and Stellasnia Uprisings, and just have ways just putting creatures on the battlefield that making our opponent have to have the answers for the creatures and or the enchantments, it definitely puts just a ton of pressure out and makes your opponent have to kind of fall behind a little bit. The one thing I would say that I may look into possibly making some adjustments for, as you know, we are in the blue shell, maybe we don't play as much in the way of removal, as we do have Voltage Surge, Destroy Evil, and Fateful Absence. I mean, all those are great removal spells in the current meta, though I wonder if it's like, do we add a couple copies of Make Disappear? Does that feel awkward? Because I mean, the one benefit of having token generators is that we can always sacrifice them to the Make Disappear to get the casualty 2 ability of it, which is definitely a possibility. But you know, it's definitely one of those decks that is fun to play. It's definitely something that's a little bit off cuff if you haven't, you know, maybe or looking for a token deck but haven't looked at Jeskai. This is definitely one to check out. I do think it'd be fairly competitive, as it did pretty well against mono white soldiers. It did okay against a mono black deck that seemed just to be playing a bunch of removal spells and not really much else. And even in the last game, it did also do fairly well against the deck that we played against. That we were down to 2 life and we were pretty much on the ropes the end of the game, but we were just able to create a board presence, and they just didn't have enough ways to deal with the board to really do anything about it. So definitely overall a great deck that you can check out. Link is in the description below if you want to import it into Arena and try it out for yourself, or maybe make adjustments and kind of play it the way you want to. But with that being said, if you like the video, hit that like button. Definitely helps out a lot. If you're new here, you want to post new videos like this one here on the channel, hit that subscribe button. Until next time, I'll see you in the next video.